Welcome, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and welcome also to our online audience. So a little bit about me, because I think it will be helpful for you. I am an entrepreneur in academia. So besides being a professor, I have 120 journal articles, 8 books, and 3 Lifetime Achievement Awards from the Family Firm Institute, the Global Consortium on Entrepreneurship Centers, as well as the Desponde Foundation. But I've owned 4 businesses, and I think that is very important for you to hear that. So hopefully this information will be helpful to you personally as well as your business, because I have a deep belief you cannot separate the person from the business. And so it's very important that we integrate everything for a healthy lifestyle, for a happy lifestyle. First of all, let me start with the definition of entrepreneurship. And this is from my book, Creative Cross-Disciplinary Entrepreneurship, A Practical Perspective. And first of all, an entrepreneur, to be an entrepreneur is to be creative and innovative in anything you do that creates value. To be creative and innovative in all you do that creates value. So that means all of us can be an entrepreneur. Is that correct? Absolutely. So everything in our life, we can be creative and innovative no matter what we're doing. Even in our marriages, my husband knows I am very creative and innovative to keep him happy, maybe. So I think this is an important point, because we have a program at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, where we have 50 courses in 27 different departments across the university that integrates entrepreneurship with the discipline. So entrepreneurship in music, entrepreneurship in dance, entrepreneurship in the arts, entrepreneurship in the sciences, in interior architecture. So we're teaching students the discipline, plus the faculty is trained in entrepreneurship. So they're teaching them how to be creative and innovative in interior architecture, whatever it might be, so that they have a career for the future, because I believe that this is the future, that this is now. We all must be creative and innovative in all we do. So this is in our book, and our program now has won 9 national, international awards for innovation. And so it is the best model program by the U.S. Association for Small Business and Entrepreneurship. We won that many years ago, but I believe my job is to make everyone creative and innovative in all you do. So I'm hoping today we have a very innovative and interactive audience with all of you. So please join in, give your perspectives, questions, answers, because all of us can learn from each other. So that's my perspective. So I want to thank once again Université, Savoie, Mont, Blanc, and IREGE for inviting me. IREGE, yes. And France is my favorite country. I've been in 60 countries around the world, and I believe France, I always say France is my favorite. I had my 18th birthday in Paris, which I've never forgotten. So when my daughter turned 18, I took her to Paris, and then I went to Finland and taught for a while. But this is very, very special to me being here. And I was here in 17, I went to Switzerland. I was a babysitter in the summer, and I got to go to France. It was very special. And to Alsace-Lorraine. So please. So what we are going to talk about today is the hero within each one of us. and our well-being, because this is very important, not only in a time of COVID. I think what COVID has done has made us a catalyst for the world to realize the importance of well-being. Oftentimes we get very caught up in every day. How am I going to get this business to work? How am I going to get done with my classes? How am I going to get this all finished? And our families and making everything work. Sometimes we have little children, 1-year-old babies, and we also have parents, elderly people we're also taking care of. So trying to manage this world and all the information that comes at us. But I think COVID has made us really realize that we have to stop and we have to take care of ourselves. And so that well-being, even though we hear about it on TV and in the media, it's different when we experience it ourselves, right? In our own world. And right now is even a time that we're even more aware of it than ever before. And the reason I don't have my mask on is so that they can record the video. And I have had my 2 shots, COVID shots, please. Very important to go get your shots and stay well. But normally I have the mask on, and for the video I'm not. So part of what my background is not just in entrepreneurship as a practicing entrepreneur, then on the academic side, but my PhD is from the University of Nebraska under Fred Luthans. And Fred is the founder, basically, of positive organizational behavior. Fred wrote the first textbook in organizational behavior. He's in the top 1% in the world of anyone quoted in social sciences. So I studied under Fred. And so my background also is reward systems, positive organizational behavior, and this. So what we have to do is look at the family business. And when I talk about family businesses, we all have a family, correct? Yes. And so even if our family is not directly involved in the business, some of you are in family businesses, right? Some of you aren't, but your family is still in your business because you have a relationship, you have family people. So I talk about family business critical human resource practices. So we can practice these in the company, but also some of you don't have families in the company, but you have training and development, performance appraisals, recruitment packages, competitive compensation, and our mental health. And we have to worry about our personal mental health, and to be well, we have to be first well, right? Before we can be well for others. And then this very important thing to maintain the morale, the upkeep, the positiveness. How do I keep everybody positive? Right now, this has been very difficult with COVID because we can't see other people, and we realize now how important that is. Plus, in certain businesses, it's been very difficult. So, for instance, the restaurant businesses, the tourism businesses, the hotels. So this morale when there's no customers coming in is even harder, right? Yeah. So, and I think too, entrepreneurship is something where we like to talk to people. We like to network, right? We learn from each other. It's getting ideas from each other. And what we know from entrepreneurship is that we get those great ideas and we get affirmation. We get positive feedback more often from people that are acquaintances than sometimes our own family. They're like, oh no, you shouldn't do this. No, maybe, where this positive feedback comes a lot of times from those acquaintances. So it's even harder in the entrepreneurial world for that business, okay? Oftentimes. So that morale maintenance is very important. This can be in your family. Think about it. When everyone gets negative, then it's very difficult, right? Or maybe you have trouble with a teenager or something. I'll say, okay, let's all, to get everybody positive. So to try to lift everybody up. That's what we're about here today. So positivity in management, and it can be family business management, it can be any management. So as I mentioned, positive organizational behavior, if we look at Fred Bluthon's 2002, Avolio, play a major role in family business management. It plays a major role in any kind of management, where it's small business management, entrepreneurial management, family management, people management of all kinds. What is that? How do we define it? Okay, positive organizational behavior is the study and application of positivity-oriented human resource strengths and psychological capabilities that can be measured, developed, and effectively managed for performance improvement. And so this is an important part: measured, developed, and effectively managed. So we're not just talking about, oh, we're going to feel good. We can actually measure it. We can actually improve it. Okay. And next. All right. So we have the direct applicability of this positive development and management of human resources. And this can lead to optimal family business management or optimal management of any kind. Okay. So what we know is that there is a positive effect on work attitudes and behavior, on job satisfaction, organizational commitment, absenteeism. When positivity is high, absenteeism goes down. When positivity is high, turnover goes down. People stay at the same place. They stay in the same marriage. They don't get as many divorces, right? Organizational citizenship goes up. They're more positive about being an organizational citizen, to participate in, the ecological movement, maybe cleaning the water in Annecy, or different things where they're taking hikes and cleaning. The people don't litter here very much, I don't think, but we have this problem in the US, and people participate in that. And on work performance. So what we know, there's direct relationships, and this is a study by A.V. Luthon and Sue Jensen, that when we have positive organizational behavior that we can measure, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment, because it's the hero within us, performance goes way up. And this works around the world. No matter what culture we're in, no matter if it's manufacturing or in the service sector, all service sector, all manufacturing, all languages, from China to Taiwan, to France, to Switzerland, all over the world, in Africa, has a positive effect on performance. So for the business, it's very important, because the performance is going to go up. When performance goes up, the profits go up, right? And also in nonprofits, we have to keep, a positive balance sheet. So what is psychological capital, or simply PsyCap? And this positive organizational behavior has evolved over time to be called PsyCap. And it is defined as an individual's positive psychological state of development that is characterized by having confidence, called self-efficacy, to take on challenging tasks, making positive attribution, or you're optimistic, not pessimistic, and succeeding now and in the future, redirecting past goals or hope to succeed. So here is the path. Here is my goal. I have a mission, how I'm going to get there, but I have a vision. So vision is what we're trying to achieve. Mission is how I'm going to get there, right? And when beset by problems, bouncing back, being resilient. We hear about this a lot to attain success. So PsyCap now should be recognized, developed, and leveraged all in any business. Next.
Oh, Diana, may I just ask?
Yeah, please.
How would you say this idea of psychological capital is different from entrepreneurial mindset?
Yes, very good question. Thank you for that. Mindset oftentimes is based on your environment. If you think about children, so it's your environment oftentimes. So we know from the British that about the British scientists that about 40% of entrepreneurial mindset is there when you're born. It's a cognitive ability that's in, there when you're born. The rest is from your environment, about 60%. So you can train people to be entrepreneurial. But mindset is not skill set. What we do in academia is bring a skill set with the mindset. Now, all of you, and maybe some of you in the room, I can tell already, are very entrepreneurial. This young gentleman here is very entrepreneurial. I think you were entrepreneurial when you were born, maybe. If you think about the parents, were you a child that when you were young, they let you go in the sandbox and try things out, or try things out and you got dirty? I'm thinking about a little girl like me. I always was in dresses, and my mother would let me try anything and I would get dirty, And some people, if you think about other parents, oh no, don't get your dress dirty, and don't try that. Don't get your dress dirty, stay here. Yes. So when I was growing up, I'll tell you a story. Where I grew up, and I think here in Annecy, you have the same thing. You have the mountains, and on the side of the mountains, they grow the blackberries, wild blackberries, and blueberries, blackberries, and red raspberries. So when I was growing up, we had these cliffs by the river, and we had the wild blackberries and red raspberries. And I would go pick these when I was about 10 years old. And I would have my mother save the basket, the container for the strawberries. And when, you go to the store and you get this, I would have her save these all year long. And then I would have maybe 50 of them by the end of the summer. And I would go to the cliffs. I would pick all the blackberries and the red raspberries. And then I would put them in the baskets, the little containers. I would go to the store, local store, and I would sell those, and they would buy everything. They said, Diane, bring us more, we sell these right away. And this is when I was 10 years old, and my brothers and I had a contest. I had two brothers, and they said, okay, they suggested the contest actually, and they said, okay, we are going to make pot holders with this little machine. They had this handmade machine and a loop, and who's going to win the contest to make the most money? And they would sell them to the neighbors, but I always won the contest at the end of the year. But my mother and my father never said I couldn't do anything. They always let me try this. So this environment is about 60% of growing up. So when you get in the classroom or you get around people, you say, this person, hey, I have an idea. What do you think about this? They're natural, they have this mindset. And we don't teach that. But what we know is we can train people in the entrepreneurial mindset, and we teach them those skills to be an entrepreneur at the university. in technical centers, in incubators. We teach them that skill set. We can also learn those skill sets from other people. But if we just based everything on mindset without training people in entrepreneurship, we would have a much more limited number of people because we haven't taught them the skill sets. So we can train people to be entrepreneurs, but we all know there are some natural entrepreneurs, I think, you know, before they get in the university environment or any kind of education environment. Think about when you were a young child, maybe in high school. Do you know people from your youth that were entrepreneurial? Yes. And maybe now. Yes. And they didn't have any of the training, but now, so mindset is important. They talk a lot about mindset, but what we have to do is put the mindset with the skill set. So I think that's very important, is to teach them the skill set. And now, in today's economy, with the information age, we have so much more to teach them because of that. So let's look at what are the components of the hero within. And today, with all of us, we're going to develop the hero within you. And that is hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. That's the best way to remember this. So the hope, goals, and pathways. I have goals. And how am I going to get there? The pathways to the goals. A lot of people have goals and they don't get to the goals, right? So it's very important, especially for entrepreneurs, is we set goals and we have a pathway to goals. I often tell my students, and I do this, is that I take a Post-it note, you know, this little yellow pad, and in the morning, before I go to bed at night, I write one word on this. It might be library. So I'm going to make sure I go to the library and I'm going to get a pleasure book. I'm getting something for me. It's amazing when I wake up in the morning, I look on the mirror, I put it in the mirror in the bathroom. Where's the first place you go? In the bathroom, right? I see that Post-it note and I have a goal for the day. It's short term, but you know what I've learned is when I do that, I am more apt, much more apt to get that done, because that's the one thing I'm going to make sure I do today. So I set that pathway to that goal for myself. And so if you're an entrepreneur, if you're trying to achieve something, if you're a student, try doing that. And if you do that 7 days a week, you'll be amazed how much more you get done. Don't write on it, I'm going to finish my thesis, because we know that's going to be a lot longer than 1 day, right? So try to make small steps, but we have a goal and you will develop a pathway during that, because you're thinking, okay, how am I going to get that done, right? So hope is very important, to be very hopeful. I've done a lot of studies just on hope. And I'll go into this, I believe, in some of the other slides. But there's a professor named Snyder out of kinesiology, exercise science, that said, how can certain athletes that compete in the Olympics, maybe their body isn't, they weren't born exactly the right, you know, perfect, like Mark Spitz or someone like that, and they are winning gold medals. How can they do that? And so he did studies, this was many years ago, on these athletes that were these Olympians that would win competitions when maybe you look at the person and maybe, you know, obviously they worked out, but they had tremendous amount of hope. And because of the hope, they were champions. It wasn't just their physical body. It was that, of course, in working at it. But the hope, what he found is that because of the hope, it made a difference in them being champions. So hope is very important in terms of our success and developing that superhero within us. Efficacy is confidence. Confidence, I can do it. I believe in myself. I am not second guessing myself. So the confidence is very important because if you, and I'm thinking of some of the students in the room, before you go in that thesis defense, the oral defense, we had to do the written and then the oral for 4 areas. For each area, we had to do this. And the oral was 4 hours for 1 area. And if you say to yourself, I'm not going to be able to do this, I don't know enough about organizational commitment or some theory, what you start doing is putting doubts in yourself, right? I can't do this. And what happens is it'll be a self-fulfilling prophecy, as they say, right? So you have to continually build yourself up. With entrepreneurs, this is extremely important. You have to constantly be telling yourself, you can do this. You can develop this business. You can develop the furniture model. You can develop the business model. I can make this business model sustainable. Because there is a lot of people that are going to put doubts in your ears, right? Always. No matter if it's in your family, they're sometimes the worst, I hate to say. And they maybe aren't used to taking chance. Why don't you just get a regular job? And so you have a good salary and benefits, and then we don't have to worry so much about you. No, you're going to be an entrepreneur, or no, you're going to be a family business person. So, you know, we're even in the media, there's all this negativity, you know, and this is what's hard always for teenagers, I think, because they're being judged all the time. Are you thin enough? Are you attractive enough? Is your shoes the right Nike? Or, you know, and this creates a huge amount of stress. I think then sometimes this is why the nuns, they dressed everyone the same, because I have to say there was no peer pressure, right? But this is a huge issue nowadays, right? And even my granddaughter, she's 6, and she wears the school uniform, but she said, Nana, why don't we go and you can buy me some sequins shoes? Because the other girls have the sequins shoes. And my husband's laughing because my granddaughter would be in sequins all her whole outfit if she had a choice. She loves to be showy, you know. She takes after her grandmother, I think so. But you know, it's because other kids have it. So there's this huge, even at 5 and 6 years old, it's all around us, right? So how do we keep that positivity? We're constantly saying, you know, you're smart, you're beautiful, you know, hearing that positive. You know, that's very creative, that way you wrote this. So even the little things, like my granddaughter last week, she showed me a book she had made. She's only 6, like I said. I'm like, you know, I said to my husband, you know, it has a table of contents. It has page numbers. She's 6 years old. She's going to be a professor. I'm so happy, you know. But it's like, okay, she said, what page do you want to read? Okay, let's read page 6. And, you know, so I was encouraging her even about this all along, you know, so trying to divert into the positive, not divert into other things, right? So always thinking, how am I going to encourage this other person, our coworkers, our colleagues, ourselves? Resilience is the bouncing back from adversity, the ability to bounce back from adversity, right? How many of you in the room have dealt with adversity? Everybody, right? And adversity in your own way. It's unique to you, right? And sometimes you'll talk about that adversity, and other times you don't want to ever bring it up You don't want to talk to anyone about it. But all of us have to deal with adversity. And sometimes it's much worse. We lose family members, maybe. We may have lost family members to COVID. Or we've lost jobs, or even losing parents in a lifetime. You know, we all at that some point are going to do that. So this adversity, even in small things, and I can go back to my granddaughter because we understand children. She had to change schools because her father got transferred. And so the family moved in April, almost the end of school. My daughter said, no, we could keep her out of school. She's only in kindergarten. But no, this is a good plan for her to learn to be resilient, to deal with adversity. Because to a 6-year-old, changing your kindergarten class is adversity. Would you agree with that? This is traumatic for them, you know? And I said, okay, how's it going? And she's sort of quiet, you know, because we're learning, you know, it's a lot of adjustment, but she did it. And I said, good for you. Now, just look at that. The next year, you'll be in the school. You know where the bathroom is. You know some friends. You know the classroom. You know where the building is. Look at how good that is that you did that. So with colleagues and coworkers, we need to do the same thing, you know, and even asking, not how are you, but, you know, something about the family, if they've shared that with you, you know, so important. Optimism, making positive attributions and having positive future expectations. So not just optimistic about today, but optimistic about the future. Where am I going? How am I going to get there? Is it going to be positive? And am I going to be successful? Am I going to produce, you know, 5 winning businesses from the incubator here? Am I going to get that journal article in the top journal? You know, is it going to work out for my family when I've moved? You know, some of us moved from very far away places, right? And you're like, you know, maybe 10, 15 hours by plane from here. Is this going to work out? We've moved our whole family. Is this going to work out? The optimism about the future is what brings that hero within us to make us each successful. Okay. And so if you remember the hero within you, always talk to yourself about the hero within you. I have hope. I have efficacy. I have resilience. I have optimism. And I am a hero. I am a hero. Daily, hourly, I am a hero. You will be amazed when you talk to yourself how much difference that'll make. Hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. Okay, how does this tie into mental health? We talked about that a little bit already, but these are the tools we have. We need tools to make things work, right? Just like a craftsman is gonna craft a boat or make a piece of furniture, we need the tools, personal tools, to incorporate and sustain PsyCap for better mental well-being. And so I just wrote an article about this. I don't think it's been published yet in the newsletter of the Family Firm Institute. If you go to ffi.org, they have a newsletter called, well, I think it's a journal, but it's called, you can get it for free, and it's called The Practitioner. So it's really aimed at businesses. And I wrote it with a couple of my colleagues in Belgium. and it just came out. So how do we incorporate and stimulate this SciCap for better mental well-being? You know, and right now we all need better mental well-being, right? And you probably know some people that are doing really well, and you probably know some people that aren't doing so well with all this stuff going on, right? And so, and even on the news, you know, the President Macron, he came on last night, and there's now some more, they're having more things about, you know, the restaurant certificates, you have to have everything. So I'm so happy I'm in France now, you know, because we don't know, there's so much uncertainty, right? We thought we were done with this, and here's another Delta variant, like what now? And maybe I have to get a third vaccine. So there's a lot of uncertainty. So that's even more about this hero. You have to be even more confident. When the environment around us is uncertain, you need to build up that hero within us more. It is trainable to reprogram our software of the mind and make us more resilient, more hero within. And here's some practical tips. Now, this is very simple for the presentation. We also, there's an excellent article by AV and some other colleagues on actually doing computer simulation to increase the hero within us. And they did this in businesses. So it's trainable to increase this in your employees. And you can also do that permanently. But personally, that there is some computer simulations that you can work with this. But just some real practical tips is those signaling words. Signaling words are very important. So listen to what you're saying. Listen to what other people are saying to you. You know, fantastic. You know, I'm thinking with my granddaughter, I have to use different words, you know. Signaling words, you know, with colleagues, you know, that was a great job on those papers. And, you know, I'm having a bad day. You know, that's not bad to say, but have you ever met people that are always sort of down? And what happens to you? It affects you, right? And the first person you see in the morning, where I work, she's now retired, but she was, you know, we called her Natty Nelly, Negative Nelly, you know, because everything was negative. There was never anything positive. Always, how was your weekend? Oh, it wasn't so good, you know. How's your mother? Oh, she's not so, you know, and it just went on, like, no matter what you said, this was it. You all know some people like this. Signaling words. So what do you do? What did I do? I stopped asking her, right? Because I would avoid going in the office because I would be down after I did that. So instead of using the coffee machine in the office, I would get my own coffee machine for my office so I wouldn't have to go, you know. And when she retired, just like 1 month ago, the other person in the office was so happy because she had to work right next to this person. And she said it just affected her whole, you know, verse. So the signaling words, try it tonight when you go home, or with your partner, or with your children, or with, you know, these signaling words. See how it will change the whole atmosphere. Okay. Facial expressions and intonation of voice. If I am positive, I am going to have, and I smile, you know, oftentimes when I look at someone, they look back and they don't know me, especially on trips. You have to be careful of this with the different sexes and stuff. And I'll smile at them, you know, and just by smiling, they smile back, right? You know, or they're feeling uncomfortable, maybe on an airplane, like maybe they're sitting in the seat next to you and, you know, and you smile. You don't even have to say anything. It makes a huge difference. So those facial expressions, how your voice is used. The voice is a wonderful. Listen like this. You're listening more closely than if I'm real loud, right? So how you use the voice, the varying your voice doesn't usually happen. Also, when you're using this in business, you can use it to attract customers more, and they pay more attention. Then sometimes you think you've got to be very loud. And what happens to us when we're around very loud people? We run away, right? Yeah, we back off. What's our natural thing is we back off. And we stop paying much attention. I had a colleague many, many years ago I worked with, and he was a farmer. Sometimes he would come in and work in his overalls, and he had mules, so he didn't ever smell so good. But he was very loud and boisterous. And what happened to all the faculty? They would all run away when he came in. So I'm using extreme examples, but you all know, right? Do we all know? Yes. Okay. And what happens to people when they're loud? Do we really believe what they're saying? Usually, there's some connection maybe with this, or we're questioning stuff. Think about that a little bit. Reframe the discussion. So if it's going negative way, try to reframe it to a positive way. This is much better for your mental health. So with Diana, the secretary I was telling you about, you know, when she'd say, oh, I had a terrible weekend, I would say, well, how was your dogs? Did you get to take your dogs for a walk? She loved her dogs. So she said, yeah, we went to the park and we did this with the dogs, and we went to the Battleground Trail, and, you know, well, how's your dogs? You know, is their health doing well? Well, the one I had to take to the vet, and, you know, and so I immediately reframed. I learned to reframe that. So when I started, how was your weekend? After 1 month, how is your dogs this weekend? Because I knew if I brought up her pets, she loved her pets. She also had cats and stuff, but I didn't, know much about those. But I would ask her about the cats. I would ask her about the dog. And just by saying, how were your dogs this weekend? Did you get to go, on a walk? A very simple examples. If you think about business, how is your new product development coming? Oh, I'm just really having a hard time. With COVID, we really haven't gotten anything developed yet. So try to change that to, did you get some new ideas about your product development that's going to make it more efficient, useful for the customer? Okay. So reframing the discussion. Also, the benefits of breathing is very important. So oftentimes, before I go into a speech, like if I'm speaking in front of 300 people, I do breathing exercises. The more nervous you are, the more you can use these breathing exercises. As we get nervous, we get tense, and what happens? We don't breathe, right? So this air is so wonderful in Annecy. The air is so wonderful here. We opened the window this morning. So the air is wonderful, and just breathing in. What we know about people as they get older, the physical therapists will actually, like in the pool, when they're doing water aerobics, will actually spend at least 5 minutes having them come in and breathe. So what I want everyone to do now is I want you to get all up in your seats. Everyone stand up. And we're going to just do some breathing exercises. So everybody stand up, pull your shoulders back. That's always a big issue for me. And go. Everybody. Breathe in, hold it. And one more time. You feel a little more relaxed. Now we just need a glass of wine. We're all good. Okay. So there's huge benefits in breathing for your body as well as your mental health. And what we know is if we don't get enough oxygen, what happens is we can faint. And oftentimes before people make presentations, you know, they're so nervous they faint. And this is a lot to do with this breathing. So try to practice that breathing. It's helpful. It's healthy. You know, I don't know, does anyone in here meditate? A few people, so that you know, you should have let me know that because you're better at this breathing. Actually, if you do meditation, you do a lot of breathing exercises, right? And it's very relaxing. Okay, even doing this for 5 minutes at your desk with your door closed, you know, a couple, 3 times a day, it's amazing. Okay. So, I have many firms in France, and you're very close to Switzerland, or our family businesses. So I received a very nice gift this morning from a professor colleague, and it was a knife. It's like we call it a jackknife, and it's the company's name is, you all know it. Yes, very nice, wonderful. So I think that maybe this business is more than 3 generations, 4th or 5th generation. Very nice, quality is wonderful. So lots of family businesses here. So I was going to talk a little bit about PsyCap and family businesses and give you some information about that, but it's can apply to other firms too. But going beyond research on goal setting, a proposed role for organizational psychological capital of family firms. This was an entrepreneurship theory and practice. This is an A journal. And this is talking about, you know, goal setting is important, but we have to go beyond goal setting, right? How many of you set goals and sometimes, lots of times, most of the time, you don't reach them, right? You don't reach them. Yeah, I think it's everybody, right? Many, many times. So that's why this hero within, the hope, the efficacy, the resilience, and optimism really has to go along with goal setting. So we're talking about going beyond that. And how do we do that in family firms? In family firms, there's a lot of issues because we have the business, and then we have the personal, the family side. And then you have to bring it all together and make it work somehow, right? So my master's degree is in psychology. My doctorate's in management. So that's why, you know, I do a lot of work in this, because you almost have to be a psychologist to work with family businesses, right? Because my brother, you know, he never liked me from the time I was a kid, and now I'm the vice president, he's the vice president, and I have to, and we've got a family business, right? So it gets much more complicated, all this. Organizational psychological capital may be greater in family businesses than non-family businesses. This is what we found out. So we compared family businesses to non-family businesses. We found out that the organizational psychological capital, so we have individual psychological capital inside us. We also have it for the whole organization. So if you think about hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism, we can measure that in the entire organization. And what we learned in the study is it's higher in family businesses than non-family businesses. In general, that's taking them in the survey, all of them. Now, saying that, especially in family firms that last more than one generation. So what we know is to go from generation 1 to generation 2. In the United States, that is only 9% of businesses make it to the second generation. So it's very small. So when you talk about this knife business, tell me the name again. Yes. And what is the third generation family business? Yes. To make it to the third generation, to make it to the fifth generation, that organizational psychological capital has to be very high, and they have to keep that maintained. Or what happens? We don't want to be in business together anymore, right? This plays a very important part, organizational psychological capital, in the role of the link between the collective commitment to family-centered goals and economic performance. So there's got to be a link between the organizational psychological capital and the performance of the business. To make it through 5 generations, to make it through 3 generations, they have to perform, they have to have a profit, right? And that link is very, very important. Next. Okay. This one is also talks about psychological capital and family-owned franchise firms and corporate social responsibility in the Journal of Ethics and Entrepreneurship. And we propose that family franchise businesses develop more organizational capital than non-family franchise businesses. Same argument. And that family involvement in franchise firms means that there'll be more corporate social responsibility because they're a family franchise. Organizational psychological capital will strengthen the relationship between the family involvement in the franchise business and corporate social responsibility. So we've done some studies on corporate social responsibility and PsyCap. We found with firms with higher PsyCap, organizational PsyCap, the higher the corporate social responsibility. Does that make sense to everyone? And why is that? Why do you think that is? The values. Yes, the values and caring about others and that corporate social. Yes, okay. Next, very good. Thank you. So, okay, so we also, this is another academic article. Some of you are academics in the audience and some of you are not. So I will skip reading all this, you can see it. But basically what this article means is that leader-member exchange between the leader and the members of the business is characterized more by trust, respect, and obligations can mean higher PsyCap of family firm franchises, positively impacting innovation. And we've done some studies, actually a number of studies, and what we found, and when I say a number of studies, I'm saying maybe 2 or 3, not a lot, that they've looked at psychological capital, organizational psychological capital. If it's higher, we found that those firms are more innovative. If psychological capital is lower, not just individual, but the whole collective organizational psychological capital, if it's lower, the innovation will be lower. So it has a direct impact on innovation. And I don't know if I have this slide up here, but what we found is there's a direct impact also with how entrepreneurial that family business is and psychological capital, or not just family business, but entrepreneurship. So the higher the psychological capital, individual and organizational. Also, we've measured team psychological capital, the higher the entrepreneurial innovativeness or entrepreneurship and innovation. So that's very important. And does that make sense? Think about it. If you're an entrepreneur, we've also done individual studies on entrepreneurs and some with the classroom students. The more the hero is within students, the hope, the higher the hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism, the higher the entrepreneurship, the higher the innovation. Okay. So if we want to really build entrepreneurs, if we want to build those innovations, you have to have this hero in them. Think about it. If somebody's not hopeful, are they going to be an entrepreneur? No. If they're not going to be optimistic, if they're not going to believe they can do something, and if they're not resilient. What do we know about entrepreneurs and their businesses? In the US at least, well, no, actually worldwide. The average to be successful in a business is the 7th attempt. So if they're not resilient and they're not optimistic and they don't have a lot of hope, they're never going to start that second business, right? They're going to give up. I'm going to go work for somebody. So yeah, it just makes sense. And that leadership makes the big difference from the top in being hopeful, optimistic, resilient, and that hero within us. Next. Yeah.
Maybe not only on business, but not talking about the need of, let's say it's a question. Do you think that management should align goals for cycle for people, for the company to be efficient? We're talking about individual cycle, sometimes of company cycle, but we're not talking about the interest of aligning goals, for example. But if you just hire different entrepreneurship mindset people, let's say, and high potential cycle people, if you do not manage them in the same direction, will it still be successful?
Right.
About that? Do we need to align goals?
That's a very good question. The answer is yes. Yeah. So we have individual goals, personal goals. And so when I meet with people, I go over goal setting with them and try to cover the hero within and how they're going to achieve that with their personal goals, but also how they're going to do that for the company goals, right? And here's the company goals. Now, how are we going to make sure you're aligned with that? So the personal goals have to align with the company goals, right?
Yeah, and we just say that for finding business, it's also part of the success because usually it's kind of obvious that the goal are aligned.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's easier to go off the railroad track in family businesses because of the family personality situation sometimes. But this can also happen in a non-family business, right? Where people don't get along or they don't see things like you do, or they don't agree with this. No, we need to do it like this. So that's all part of the management process, a very big part of management. It's very important. We have instruments to measure personal psych-cap, team psych-cap, and organizational psych-cap. And so there's a very short survey. It's 12 questions. For each one, I think the individual is 12, and maybe the other ones are maybe more, 4 or 5, not so long. But to measure that and to measure it over time, not just once or once a year. And also to do goals, sit down with them for the alignment of goals, not once a year. In the US, they only do it once a year. It's a waste of time because in once a year, nobody even knows what it is. And nobody likes these evaluations, but every 3 months to sit down and, to talk on a personal level as well as group. you know, how are your goals aligning with the company? Most of the time, companies only talk about the company goals. And this is a major, major problem. And this is why it's not always successful. Absolutely. Exactly. The vision is what is extremely important to start with. So I always tell companies, show me your vision statement, show me your mission statement. Sometimes they're very confused in that because the vision is where you want to go. The mission is how you're going to get there. To be the best furniture manufacturer in the world. And maybe that's too big. To be the best, let's use your business, because I know a little bit about it because we talked to before. To be the best or the highest quality or the most highest quantity, the most productive, let's say quality, self-design furniture business in France, or in, you know, start something small. Always, we know that. Yeah. Or the region, yes, yes. And, you know, okay, how am I going to get there? To start it, always, the vision starts with the word to. The mission always starts with the word through doing this and this and this. But if they don't have the mission and the vision, nothing is clear to employees, you know, and they have to constantly remind them this mission and vision constantly. So actually, in the companies I consult for, we have some things where exercise where we do it every day to remind them. And there's different ways to do that through computers, through, you know, you can have it on here and where they go in, but, you know, so many people are working distance now, but constantly, because again, just like the goals with the Post-it note, I'm going, okay, what am I doing here? Because if you don't get them thinking about why they're doing it, they're thinking about what they're having for dinner, right? So, or something else, or email, or, you know. Okay, so reward systems. Let's talk about what a reward system is. To manage behavior, reward systems are extremely important. Okay, reward system is something given as a consequence of behavior. It is used by the person giving it in an attempt to reinforce behavior. So in an attempt, you don't know if it's going to work. Okay, so reward programs reflect the values and perception of the parties involved, those administering the rewards and those receiving it. What might be a reward for me may not be a reward for you. Okay, so you're the manager, you have employees. How do I know what is a reward for you? What's a reward for me? When you do this performance evaluation where you're sitting down and you're doing the hero within and the reward systems, you know, you get to know the person. If you don't know the person, this is never going to work. Okay, and you find out what's a reward for them. Okay, so maybe they like taking their family to the movies. Maybe they like a nice bottle of wine. You know, and sometimes it's very little things. So one of my students, she loves chocolate. She loves chocolate. So I get these little pieces, you know, I try to buy the Swiss chocolate because it's very much better than Hershey's chocolate in the US. And it's very special, you know, and I have those sitting on my desk. And in the morning, she comes in and I say, oh, we've got this, you know, project we're on a short deadline. And, you know, if you are able to get this outline done by noon, you get a piece of candy. You know, it sounds sort of minuscule. We'll have chocolate together. You know, it's amazing the little tiny things make a huge difference. And I have a whole book of these kind of rewards. What companies do, what businesses do, is they think only financial, not non-financial. What we know from research is people are only motivated by a raise for about 6 weeks. They get more money, they're motivated, they work harder for 6 weeks, then they stop. Only 6 weeks. But the boss, the manager thinks, okay, I gave him a raise, I gave her a raise. She's going to work harder, you know, for at least a year, right? Or work harder for the rest of their life. This doesn't happen. What we know from studies, it only lasts 6 weeks. What is more powerful is the non-financial rewards. And I think I have, so next slide, please. Okay. We'll talk about this a little bit, but as I mentioned, management pays more attention to financial rewards, ignores non-financial. Employee feedback, positive feedback is much more, not that you have to pay people adequately. We have a big problem with this in the United States. I'm saying this on video, I probably shouldn't, but it's true. You know, you have to pay people adequately. They need to have a living wage. So you have to, so given that we're paying them adequately, you know, then these non-financial reports are much more powerful. Positive feedback is one, and feedback needs to be PIG. So I'm big on acronyms, you can tell. PIG stands for feedback. Pigs must be, and I'm from Iowa. We are the largest pork producer in the United States. So I was around the country, and where I grew up was only 5,000 people, and we had a lot of pigs. Was very big in Iowa. Pigs, feedback, positive, immediate, graphic, and specific. Positive, immediate, graphic, and specific. All feedback needs to be positive, immediate, graphic, and specific. So if I'm a manager and I tell an employee, oh, you did a really good job at that the other day, what you finished the other day. Is that positive? Yes. Is it immediate? No. It's the next day. Is it graphic? Well, we didn't, no, it's not graphic. I'm not showing them some chart or something, or, you know, hey, look how much we improved production. And specific? No. It's like, oh, you did something. Well, I did a million things the other day. What are you talking about, right? They're not going to say that, but that is not going to motivate them. So it needs to be positive, immediate, graphic, specific, all feedback. And so if you tell, how many of you have a daughter, son, grandson, grandchild, nieces, nephews, somebody, little children? Yeah. If you tell them, you know, please, Harriet, go clean your room, or please, Harry, go clean your room. And the next day you say, you did a really good job cleaning your room. Do you think they're so motivated? No. But if you say you did it right away. Hey, you did a really great job cleaning your room. I just saw it. Good job. And then you follow that up with a reward like, okay, so we'll let you watch TV for 15 minutes or whatever. So, well, that's a sort of a financial, but that immediate feedback is just amazing how that can motivate people. So you need to have financial as well as non-financial reward systems. So let's go to the next one. And so types of rewards, financial reward systems, direct ones can be salary, bonuses, commissions, merit pay. Indirect are things like your benefits, retirement plans, they don't usually think of those as reward systems, but they really are. These are very important. Now, there's differences in culture. We just expect them, right? It's a little different here. Next. Non-financial can be all these different things. And the first on the list is praise and recognition. We can also give them increased responsibility and more autonomy, more independence. Be careful with that, because if you keep giving people more responsibility, that can be used negatively too, you know, and so that isn't always a reward. So my boss, he always knows I get things done, so he always gives me more jobs to do. This is not a reward, you know, so we don't do that. Parking spaces. This is a huge thing at universities. There's never parking, you know, so if I get a parking space, that's a huge reward. Title, office with a view, special assignments, compliments on progress, greetings. Just greeting somebody can make a big difference. Acknowledgement, even public acknowledgement. Jobs with more responsibility as long as there's a financial reward of it, and choice. Number one thing, choice is very, very powerful. You know, have you ever thought about, and I always give examples of kids because we sort of understand that. So, but I can do it with companies too. But, you know, would you like to ride your tricycle, or would you like to go to the park? And maybe one of the choices is, like my daughter says things like, do you want to make your bed, or do you want to pick up your shoes? She's very good at giving choices where one of the choices is something that she wants to make sure is done, and the other one she knows this is so popular with the child. But choice is very important, because people, when you give them a choice, you know, would you like to do this assignment or that assignment? When you have a choice, it's very powerful and motivating people, and it becomes a reward. So my dissertation was with Burger King, and it was the second dissertation in the United States on franchising back in 1988. And I gave just general workers, you know, people that work there part-time, doing service, a lot of college students. I had them rank their jobs. There was 6 jobs at Burger King, and they had to be proficient for Burger King in all of them that meant that they could do them. And their most favorite was number 1. Their least favorite was number 6. I had it with all the employees. I took the sheets. I would start them at maybe the middle, like 3rd, 4th choice. And I would say to them at the beginning of the shift, if you improve the quality, because Burger King had a big problem with quality, not quantity, quality. So they were competing against McDonald's. McDonald's always has high quality, but Burger King, there was major differences in the quality. They were trying to improve that. And I said to the employee, okay, if you improve, you know, the quality, and I measure the quality of the workstation they were on, let's say it was French fries. So how do you measure quality with French fries? Anybody have any ideas? I worked in a fast food restaurant. Anybody else?
Hotness.
Huh?
The hotness of the fries.
Hotness, very good. So hotness,
A bit crispy.
crispy, okay, crispiness. What else?
So saltiness.
Salty, yeah. So how do you salt French fries? Do you go like this with the salt shaker? They have those big salt shakers like this. No, you do it like a wand, like this, like the water coming in, the water going out. So this was one technique they taught at Burger King. A lot of people went like this, right? So they had all these measures. Also, what do we know about, who said crispy? Okay, the opposite of crispy is not salty, but greasy. You know, too greasy, you know? So crispy is you put them in, you get them out. One of the things about crispy is you put the basket up with this part of and you let the grease drip down. If you don't do this, they become mushy, and greasy. So these are the things we knew from Burger King. They already had set the standards. We use the same. We would observe them the whole time they worked. We would have a baseline. If they improved quality, I would say to them, okay, if you improve your quality, the next time you work, you get to work at your favorite station. What was the favorite station of everybody except one person? Always an exception. What do you think? What was the favorite? Bingo. You're going to be a great entrepreneur. Yes, because most people miss that, by the way. Why is that?
Maybe just because it's never boring and they can meet people.
Yes, they meet new people. It's never boring. What do we like? Interaction. What do we haven't had in COVID? Interaction, right? So that was the number one favorite is the counter. That and what else do you do at the counter besides interact with the customer? The money. And what does that tell them in terms of their status? They're important. Yes, they're very important because they have the money. The other thing is, and nobody's in here worked at a fast food restaurant. What do you do when you're not busy at a fast food restaurant? Clean. What do we don't like to do the most? Clean. So the fact is that this job, you clean the leaf. Because why? You couldn't clean because you can't leave the money. You don't leave the money. It's the rule, right? So they couldn't clean. So everyone else, when you're not busy, they have to clean, right? All the other stations. So that was a favorite. Except one guy, and his favorite station was French fries. What was everyone else's worst station of all of them? French fries. The number 6, everybody except this one guy. And he was a graduate student, so I think a doctoral student, so maybe he was maybe a little not normal. I don't know. But you get hot, you get greasy, you can get burnt from the grease. You come home and you smell like French fry, And so everyone hated this station. One girl told me, I can't go out on dates. Actually, a boy told me that too. After this station, it's the worst. So they hated this one. But he liked it. And the reason he liked it, anybody have any idea why this was his favorite?
There was no competition.
That was it. He was a very quiet person, an introverted, and he felt he was in charge. So no one else wanted to do this, but it was his area. He owned it. And so that was that ownership. So whenever he worked, they said, okay, Harry, you go do the French fries because, you're the best at it. You're the best. So he was getting positive reinforcement from everybody, not just the manager, but the other employees. Oh, thank you, Harry, for doing French fries. You're always the best at that. And he owned it. And when he was there, everything was clean. No one got around. It was like his castle, So not everything is a reward that you would think it would for the person. So you have to know your employees. You have to know your students. You have to know what's important. Okay. All right. So next, the reward. You need to tie rewards to needs in the company. So what do you need? Higher profit, more quality, getting jobs done on time. Whatever it is, you need to tie it to rewards. You need to ensure fairness. This is very, very important. So everybody feels they're getting treated fairly. If you do things that you make things very public. If you don't do that, no matter what you do, they'll think the rewards are unfair and you're favoring people doing more for somebody else than me. And you have to make things public. And the reason for that is, do people talk among themselves? Yes. And if you don't make it public and it's between these two persons, then they think, okay, they've got a better deal than I have, because we think that, don't we? We always think someone is getting something we're not. It's our human character, right?
You're talking about the rewards, yeah?
Yeah.
You're making the rewards, not necessarily on the, because clearly not our culture in France. Never
No.
talked about our wage.
Yes, well, it's not the way in France, but it's not the way in most businesses around the world. So that's why we're having this seminar, because I'm teaching you to be more competitive. I'm teaching you to be a better business. So I'm telling you, we have a lot of, you have to consider culture, saying that. And I think this is your point. The culture is a different.
Yeah.
So, but even, yeah, so you have to be very fair, because there's a culture of fairness in France. That's very important. But I think you can do, maybe you can't do all of these things, but you can pick what fits your culture, what fits your company.
No,
You know.
but we can be very public on rewards, but we all have the same in my company, for example.
Yeah,
But on the wage, salary, very difficult
to change.
Yeah, to change that.
Yeah.
For example, one of our employees, in case it's a wage publicly,
Yes,
you have 3 people who live in this district. The week you gave his wage,
they left.
3 people left.
Yeah.
Just because there was a difference of 50 euros
Yes,
for them for 3 people.
yes,
So my boss, I can tell you my boss doesn't want us to speak about our.
because it has to be fair,
It's
and they
forbidden.
saw it unfair.
It's forbidden, it's even written in our contracts.
Yes, yes. So they saw it unfair.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the point about fairness. You have to be very fair. So what I would have you focus on is more the non-financial rewards. You can do this.
Yes.
Because the culture is going to be very different. And I know because of the history of France and because of just France, you know, this is very important. The wages and things, maybe you can't do these things, but you can do candy on your desk, and you can do little things like maybe a parking pass. And you know, let me give you some examples of non-financial I've done with companies. So, and I don't know, is this getting too long? It's too long, Mary? It's okay. Let me give you a couple examples really quick. Okay, one example is in a car dealership. Okay, no, let me not use that. Let me use the one. Okay, so let me use 2 examples real quick. One, Hewlett Packard. So Hewlett Packard hired me in Spokane, Washington. This was the time that they were making chips for all the computers, and there was a shortage, and they had 24 hours at the factory going, and people were very tired. People hadn't seen their family. They had worked, you know, months and, you know, 7 days a week, you know, and people were saying no more. I don't care how, we will pay you double. We'll pay you time and a half. Didn't matter. I haven't seen my family. I don't want to work. So what happened was, so there was a shortage of workers because they had to have some skills. So what happened was, and feel free to leave, this is running a little long. We'll finish up, is I looked at that and I figured out, I talked to people what rewards. They wanted to see their family. So what we did is we did some prizes if they worked 7 days in a row, we gave them tickets to the amusement park. And we had a lottery because in America, they love to gamble, you know. I don't know about here, but in America, they love to gamble. And so if they worked an extra shift, they got a ticket and we put it in a bowl. And then once a week, we would pick it out of the bowl. The company was making a bunch of money, so they could do this. They would send them on a trip to Disney World with their family for 1 week. They would send them on a cruise for 1 week. And we had one winner per week. And each time they did extra shift, they got a ticket and the ticket went in the bowl. And they could only win once. So it was fair, you know, more people would win. This is one example, but so there's different things you can do. One real short one, there was a company in California I did some work with. The boss called me and said, I have lazy employees. Everybody is lazy. Nobody wants to work. I want to get rid of all of them. And so the manager above him called me in and said, I don't know what to do. This boss is saying everybody's lazy. Of course, this was not hero with the employees. Everybody was being negative. He was being very negative and yelling. And what can we do? Well, so it was where they take the orders, and California time is 3 hours from the East Coast. So if it is 9 in the morning, if it's noon in lunchtime on the East Coast, it's going to be 9 a.m. in California. So they had to get to work very early because the orders would come in and they wouldn't be at their desks. And what happened was they had to park their cars in a different place very far away because they were doing some things. And so they had to walk a long way. So they didn't get the time to socialize with their people that in the workplace. They liked seeing everybody. They had coffee in the morning together, and then they went to their shift at 7 a.m. They missed this because of this parking lot and everything. So what would happen is they would take the time to socialize anyway, and then they weren't at their desks, okay? And then the boss said, everybody's lazy, everybody's talking, nobody's getting the work done. So what I did, very simple, is I solved the parking problem. I brought in donuts. The donuts were served at 6:30. At 10 to 7, everyone usually ate the donuts. There was no donuts. Croissant in your case. They were gone. Everybody was at their desks at 7. We had no problem. Nobody was lazy. And then I had to work with the change in attitude with the manager. But little tiny things is no big deal. But nobody identified that these people wanted to socialize. They wanted to see their friends. They knew families and babies, and they'd worked together 20 years. So little tiny things you can do. Okay, let's go to the next one. I'm running a little. Can you hold this?
Yeah.
So we want to send a clear message about what's important. We want to reinforce that message by rewarding those who accomplish what's important. And we want to develop people's career development philosophies and culture. Next. And so this leads to improved motivation for all employees, greater employee performance for the family, non-family, but overall employment and performance, and greater customer satisfaction and profits. And conclusions, I'll just say, use the hero within for greater performance. It will make a huge difference. People who respond better to non-financial, in France, we will use non-financial reward systems to have higher levels of performance. And we talked about all this. So next. And this is me. I am happy to help you if I can. Here's my email. You all have my card. Thank you very much. Thank you.